And then the last question, again, another one that's so popular. People will say, what about this? What about the engineers like Andrew Scheps and now Michael Brower? They sold all their consoles and all their hardware and they mix in the box. They say it sounds the same as analog. They can get the same sounds. So if they can get the same sound with plugins in the box, what the hell are you doing here with all this stuff? Again, valid point. But here's what I'll say. And again, I've watched the interviews with Andrew Scheps, amazing engineer. I've watched the interviews with Michael Brower on Mix with the Masters, amazing engineer. And there's others, it's not just them. I think Tony Maserati is mostly in the box. There's lots of great guys and women that are fabulous engineers that have moved away from analog and went to the box. So if they're doing it, why the hell would you go backwards? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Again, I'm not Andrew Scheps, I'm not any of these people, nor do I claim to be. Their experience is different, everybody's experience is different, but these people have worked in the analog domain for probably 25, 30 years. They're at a point in their career, and both Andrew Scheps and Michael Brower have said this. I've watched them say this, so I'm not reading it, so I'm not hearing it third hand, I've heard it come out of their mouths. That they're in a place in their career where they don't want to be tied to analog and a console in a studio. They like to travel. They need to be able to travel. They need to be able to work on clients' projects in a hotel room on a set of headphones. They don't want to have to drag a whole studio with them. For their lifestyle at this point in their lives and careers, and for what they do for a living today, they need that portability. And they have slowly, both of them, slowly have transitioned in the box, and they found a system and workflows and templates that work for them to be able to make it good enough for them, right? And so for their workflow, for what they're doing, that works for them. And I totally understand it. They've been doing it. They've already had this experience. They might be over this experience for a variety of reasons, the recall, the automation, whatever the reasons are. They're now in the box and they're happy working it and fingering it with one channel at a time. And that's totally awesome. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. For me personally, I didn't have this experience for the last 25 years. I'm going in the opposite direction. I've been working in the box for almost as long as they've been working on analog. They're a little bit older than me, so not quite that long, but you get the point. And I wanted to experience this. I don't travel all over the world and have clients where I have to be able to mix in a hotel room. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this, right? I get it. But just because they're doing it, it doesn't mean that this is invalid anymore, because I'll also say for every one guy that's like Andrew Scheps and Michael Brower, there's probably 10 guys that still work this way in some form or fashion. They do. Chris Lord-Alge, Tom Lord-Alge. I mean, it goes on. Mike Schmidt, who recently passed on. And there's dozens of other engineers. Bob Clearmountain, right? They're not moving away from there, and they're not even using a modern SSL. They're using an SSL from 1940 or 1980, you know what I mean? Why are they still working that way? They don't have to. They like it. It works for them. They know it. They may not have the portability requirements that the guys like Andrew Scheps, because that name comes up all the time, and I get it. I get it. But it doesn't mean that because they went that way, that the sound is exactly the same. It is not exactly the same. Maybe Andrew Scheps got it exactly the same to what he was doing on his Neve console and all his hardware. Maybe he did. He's a better engineer than me, that's for sure. And if he came up with a workflow that sounds identical to what he had analog, wow, that's wonderful. That's great. I have yet to be able to come up with plugins yet that sound like this. Exactly like it? No. Close enough? Depends on who you ask, right? So I think a lot of the reason why you see some of these more pro-level engineers moving to in the box is because it's not because of the sound. It's because they have other things in their career and in their lives where portability and mobility become an issue and they can't be tied to a console anymore. I get it. Or maybe part of their reason is I would suspect that they want to try something different too. They've been working this way for so many years that they want to try something new and something different. And who knows, maybe you'll see some of those guys go back to analog at one point or another. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not saying that because Andrew Scheps and Michael Brower and others, because they sold all their analog gear and their consoles, that makes all this not valid. That's just not true. It's just not true. I think the people that are stuck on that, it's because you convinced yourself that for whatever, you don't have this, you're not going to have this, you can't have this because, or you don't believe in it, whatever. So you're using that as a way to kind of confirming your own mind what you already believe. And again, that's totally fine. For me, I respect the guys that have left analog, that go to the box, just as much as I respect guys that went from the box to analog, and just as much as I respect the people who do both, like me. There is no right or wrong. It's only a different set of tools. You have to be a good engineer to make any of this stuff sound good. This in and of itself doesn't make you sound like a good engineer. This, in a lot of ways, analog, is more difficult than, as far as you have to know, you have to understand gain staging much more. You have to understand how this stuff works a lot more to get it to sound good. It's not as plug and play as in the box. Plug and play, you pick a preset and you can just go to town. There's no preset here. You have to make your own preset. So you really have to be, I think, in a way, a better engineer to understand how this stuff really works. And then when you're like an Andrew Scheps, an amazing engineer, or like a Michael Brower, that you know how to now translate that to in the box. And again, there's pros and cons to all of it. So that would be my answer to that. This is not valid anymore just because there's some engineers who have decided to sell all their stuff and they're on YouTube telling you the sound is identical, they couldn't tell the difference. Okay, great, maybe that's true. I know for me, with my limited experience, because that's what it is, I'm not an expert in this stuff yet, I'm learning and trying to share. I've mixed songs on this console and mixed that same song in the box of plugins, and the sounds are completely different, and I can't get them to sound exactly the same. Can I get them close? Yes. Can I get them exact? No. Why? Because I'm not as good as Andrew Scheps, and I'm not as good as Michael Brower. They're two of my heroes. But I'm also more of a fan of the Chris Lord-Alge and the Bob Clearmountain approach of mixing, personally. But that's just me. Maybe different for you. So, those are the 4 top questions that I get all the time.